is Tim Sanders, and you are watching Voices of Authority, brought to you by Upwork. Today, our special guest is Kevin Carroll. He describes himself as an expert generalist, and I love that. His expertise crosses a range of highly relevant topics, from creativity to collaboration to belonging and beyond. He was an executive at Nike, their catalyst, and he's the best-selling author of several books, including one of my personal favorite, Rules of the Red Rubber Ball. Welcome to the show, Kevin.
Tim, my gosh. Reconnected, reunited, and it feels so good. Here we go.
That's it, man. That's it. You and I have known each other over 15 years. I'm such a fan of your work, and I'm a fan of your perspective and the impact you've made on the world with your work. But I want to actually go back early in your career. You know, you and I share an affiliation, and that's the Air Force. That's a lot of my family were Air Force. So were you. In fact, your career started out as a cryptologic linguist.
Yes.
In the Air Force. Say that 3 times fast. Cryptologic. Cryptologic isn't the same as like understanding Bitcoin, right?
Exactly.
Explain to us what it means to be a cryptologic linguist.
I like to say there was intelligence when I was in the military, so it's not an oxymoron, military intelligence, when I was in there.
Good stuff.
So listen, I think it's really interesting. The military will discover gifts and talents that you didn't know you had. And when you go into the military, and I went into the Air Force, they give you a battery of tests to see, you know, if you have some hidden talents. And lo and behold, I had a hidden talent for languages. Now, mind you, I dropped Spanish after 5 minutes in high school, but still remember the 5 minutes. Es Susana en casa, no en la cocina. Donde está en la sala, no en la cocina. So I still remember that from all those years ago. So they test me. I passed this language test, and they literally changed my job and sent me to Monterrey to the Defense Language Institute, Foreign Language Center. And my first language I learned was Serbo-Croatian, which is Yugoslavian. Yeah. And I end up going and working at NSA, top secret clearance, all these things. I like to say that I was Black Jason Bourne back in the day, so I was Black Bourne, and working in this clandestine world and everything, and then went back for Czech and learned Czech as another language, a second Slavic language. Lived in Germany, learned German because I worked for, I played for German soccer teams there, Fußballspieler, right? And did that and learned German. I can curse you out in German like nobody's business, and I know all my sport.
I'll try not to provoke you.
Yes, please don't. And I know all my Fußballspieler terms. When I'm watching soccer games, I literally yell at the TV in German still, right? And my wife always laughs. She thinks that's funny. But it's one of those things where I never thought that language ability would actually come in handy, being a black man from Philadelphia, these Slavic languages, Germanic language. But little did I know, being in the sports world, it was actually going to be amazing, because the sports world basically became this global connected place. And my languages ended up coming in handy. I ended up becoming a translator for the Yugoslavian national basketball team for the 96 Olympic Games.
Wow, that is so cool. And of course, along the way, you've been an athletic trainer. You're retired, of course, now, but you did that for years. Talk to us about your experience with the 76ers in basketball.
So, you know, one of the things about being a physio is what people in international world, they know it as, and athletic trainer is what we know in North America, is that when people respect you, they actually give you a little title. They actually call you doc. And it's really interesting. That means you're very trusted, and they trust your hands. And I learned that very early in my path to learning how to be an athletic trainer. Was I was told the 2 most important modalities you will ever have are your hands. And so as you watch a game, any kind of game of sports, when you see somebody go down with an injury, watch what the athletic trainers do. They put their hands on the athlete immediately. Immediately. And it should be a calming presence. And so I learned that very early in my career, and high school level athletic trainer, collegiate level athletic trainer, and then I land my dream job. I was only the third black trainer in the history of the NBA for my hometown team, the Philadelphia 76ers. So I was there with Jerry Stackhouse, who's now the head basketball coach at Vanderbilt University in the SEC, and Allen Iverson his rookie year. So I
Yes.
was actually on the bench the night that Allen Iverson crossed Michael Jordan in the middle of the game. I always point out we were losing by like 20 that game, though. So it wasn't, I was looking at the scoreboard like, why is everybody getting so crazy? I know it was amazing, but we lost. So yeah, and so that NBA experience was really amazing for me because it allowed me to see, these human beings that were gifted with amazing athletic talent.
Yeah.
But to
Yeah.
see them actually harness it and use it, I started to understand what high performance was all about.
Right. And that's why you do coaching now. You do high performance coaching outside of the sports world, but you pull through a lot of what you learned then. I've always wanted to ask you, Kevin, what took you to Nike and how did the catalyst with a K position get created for you?
So, it's so funny. Yesterday, I was talking to the gentleman who was one of the key people who recruited me to Nike. He works for another sports industry company now. We've been friends for 25 years. 25 years. We've stayed friends. So I met him before I even got to Nike. I was with the 76ers, and I happened to speak at this Nike event. And one of those executives went back and told Peter Ruppe about me, and he was leading the basketball division at Nike at the time. So he contacts me and says, "Hey, could I send a few designers to spend a day with you? I think it would be great for them to have an immersive experience with basketball." I said, "Sure." I said, "Well, what do you want me to do with them?" He said, "Well, you can figure something out. Maybe just do what you do with the athletes." So I ended up actually designing a practice for them. They got taped. They went on the court. They did all the warm-up drills. We did layups and all these things. We did weight room, right? And when they finished, oh my God, they were so happy. And they said, "Can we keep these tape jobs? Can we cut them off so we can keep them?" And I said, "Sure." And I'm like, that was unusual to me. Most times people want to throw them away. I had no idea they were going to take the tape jobs back and use those as inspiration for the design of the next season's footwear.
Wow.
And so,
And that led
led to Peter coming back to me and said, "Hey, you really had an effect on the designers. Have you ever thought about, coming and working at a place like Nike?" And I literally went right to this place, Tim. I don't want to work in the gym. I'm the head athletic trainer for my hometown team. Why would I leave that to go work in your gym? He goes, No, that's not what I'm thinking. I think you could add value here. I'm not sure where we would place you, but I think you could add value, and you'd have to be willing to take a bit of a risk because we don't know where we're going to place you. And so, a year went by, I consulted with them, did a lot of different things, and they made an offer to me. I decided to leave the 76ers. I was a single dad at the time, raising my two sons on my own. I would do that for 15 years, and I wanted to be around my boys more than away with the big kids from the NBA. And so we moved out to Portland, Oregon in 1997 after 2 seasons with the 76ers, and I got to create my own role there. And so I basically became an internal consultant that got directives from leadership around sparking other areas, building bridges between teams and organizations and entities within the company. And they said I could name myself whatever I wanted. So I said, First I went to like positive deviant. I'm like, nah. And then I went, wait, what was that thing in science that sped up or changed the process? I went, oh, catalyst, but I'm going to change the C to a K because of Kevin.
There you go.
And that became my official title, and I was an excitatory agent that sped up or changed the process. I helped others turn ideas into reality. And so when you go back to that empathy piece, my agenda was you. It was never me. And if you shine, I shine was my attitude. And so I was always about helping others. And that made the difference with me being able to go all over the company from the C-suite level all the way down to shipping and receiving. Right. And Phil Knight actually called me the mayor of Nike. He said I might be CEO and chairman. He was CEO and chairman at the time. He said, but Kevin, you're the mayor here. Like, you know this place.
You were the high performance coach across the organization.
Yes.
Tell me about one of the most high stakes experiences you were a part of as the mayor of Nike.
So high stakes experiences. I'll give you two real quick ones. So
great.
There was one where I felt the company we were in meetings, several different meetings, and it just felt really heavy, like the energy within the meetings, and people were so serious, yet we talk about sports and play all the time. So I proposed that we play tag for a little break. And everyone thought I was silly, but then I started citing the research behind why play matters. It's at the root of innovation, creativity, problem solving, abstract thinking, ingenuity. I said, let's just go out 5 minutes, get some fresh air. When they came back in and everybody was revved up and they said, that was so much fun. Could we do it again next week? Well, a month goes by, the gain swells from about 10 people to 100 people. And I get a phone call from HR and they say, could you get 3,000 people to play tag? And I said, yes, I can. I got 3,000 people to play tag at Nike for 3 hours. The most beautiful bedlam I'd ever seen. So that was one high stakes moment, like getting an entire campus community to play a game. But they were so into it and so invested in it, but also understanding why. That play is about community. And play is about belonging and connecting. And then when Bill Bowerman passed away, this is the second experience, I decided that it wasn't enough for our internal communications to actually do a corporate, response to his passing and celebration. I thought the people should do something. So I rallied some other creative sympathizers, I called them, told them what I was thinking. And I said, let's just, we should guerrilla market our own campus. Just take over the campus, hang our own banners, do it under the cloak of night, right? And when people show up in the morning before the tribute, they're going to see all these things. Burma shave signs. Remember Burma signs where one way you saw one message, the other way was another message? So we did that all over the campus, hung banners. And then my stroke of genius was I got free waffles for everyone on campus before they went into the tribute. And for those of you who don't know, Bill Bowerman was behind the waffle outsole for one of the most important shoes for Nike, the Cortez. And so that's where that came from. It was actually a waffle iron that he used and poured rubber into it to make that sole and that shape. And so I got everybody free waffles, and Barbara Bowerman, his wife, and the family came early because they heard about the free waffles and had a free waffle with everyone. And so Phil Knight actually invited me to sit down in his office. This is when we started our relationship because he asked me, why did I do that? And I said, if you and Bill Bowerman don't create this place, where's a person like me and others like me who are kind of like these misfit toys who love sports so much but couldn't really find a place where it would be celebrated daily? And I said, that's what I loved about coming here, and that's why we decided to do it as, a group of creative sympathizers. So those are my two high stakes moments, tag and the Bowerman tribute.
So let's go back a few clicks here. You talked about play. I love your TEDx talk you did in Oklahoma. And you talked about your pledge to play, your resignation from adulthood. Just take a minute and unpack some of the incredible research and some of the very insightful quotes from Plato to Einstein that you shared to reinforce the practical, business, creative value of play.
So the adult resignation, just really, I'll share it real quick. I'm hereby officially tendering my resignation as an adult. Just for a little bit, I'd like to accept the responsibilities for an 8, 9, or 10-year-old again. I want to believe that anything is possible again. I want to believe that M&Ms are more valuable than money because, well, you can eat them. I want to believe in the power of smiles, kind words, truth, justice, peace, dreams, the imagination, mankind, and making angels in the snow again. So, if you want to talk to me further about this, you're going to have to catch me first, because here's my car keys, credit card bills, 401k savings. You can have it all, because tag, you are now it, right? So that whole idea of, play is serious business, the importance of that. Plato and Socrates have, identified that play is the highest form of research. Plato says that. Right? And I truly believe that play tells a lot about us. We all have a play history, regardless of our physical abilities. Everyone has a play history. Friedrich Froebel, who created kindergarten, actually had a series of gifts called the Froebel gifts. And they were very specific shapes of items. And the first item he said that anyone should receive should be round like a ball, because a ball explains the world. The ball can get away from you. You can master it. You can invite someone to play with you, right? You can track it. You can do all these things. You can really find so many answers to life with a ball. And so I started
Yeah.
to understand the science behind play, the role and value of it, and that we shouldn't be marginalizing it. And so that's one of the things that I stand on my bully pulpit on the regular and talk about,
Yeah.
that play is serious business and play is serious in the business of innovation, creativity, problem solving, abstract thinking, ingenuity, all these things that people are being demanded of, even more so now in this virtual world. We need more
Yeah.
innovation. We need a disruptive idea, right? All these things.
Yeah.
And people are sitting
Yeah.
on Zoom, like, and you see them, like, they they turn off their video. Don't look at me. Don't look at me. Don't look at me.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And
They do.
yet, we're asking of them, but we're not setting them up for success by making sure that they have creative confidence,
Yeah.
that they're actively
Yeah.
practicing and working on their creative muscle, right? They're using curiosity. They're using all these things that are going to be really beneficial to tapping into that childlike wonder and imagination that
Right.
you're going to need to come up with a
Yeah.
new idea, a novel idea, something to surprise and delight. So that's how I look at play, and I'll always say it, and I will stand on my bully pulpit that play is serious business, and it's serious in the business of advancing the human condition.
Speaking of Plato, great quote. You learn more. What did he say? You learn more in just a
You
short
can
time. of
learn,
play
yeah,
than
yes, exactly. You can discover more about a person in 1 hour of play than in a year of conversation.
And I think, Kevin, where that really lands for me is when I think about how we hire. Like the whole conversation that we rely on to make a decision about bringing on a full-time team member. So what I hear you taking away from that is that we need to systematically integrate play throughout this business, work, life situation that we live in. You quote research from the National Institute of Play. There is a National Institute of Play?
Yes, the NIFP. Yeah, Dr. Stuart Brown runs that. Yes, Carmel, California.
Gosh. Wow. And what were some of their findings?
Well, he's the one that actually pointed out to me that everyone has a play history, and that's one of the things we should always look at immediately to see how we connect. Right? What was your favorite game, toy, or activity as a child? That would be a great interview question, wouldn't it? Right? When you want to get to what's at someone's core, did they do a solitary individual thing? Were they on team sports? Did they like to play chess? All these things are actual tells about people. And the more that you start to understand someone's play history, it reveals things about their personality, the way they interact, and the way they like to be in groups or teams, all those things. So Dr. Brown, he talked about that role and value, but he actually said there's a term called neoteny, Neoteny, N as in Nancy, neoteny.
Yeah.
And it's actually maintaining the characteristics of youth throughout your entire life.
Wow.
And so he said to me, Kevin, you are the epitome of neoteny. You have that childlike curiosity and wonder and imagination, even in the age that you are now. And he said, so staying in that mindset and that attitude could be so valuable. And you start to look at how your hiring practices, and you start hiring non-traditional people or unexpected, like Nike did for me. I never saw myself at a Nike. And yet when I got there and figured out how I could contribute and add value, I became really, really, a valued member of that organization. And so I think that's when you start looking at how you're hiring people. Why not ask people, what's your play history? How do you find time for fun? What role or value do you think play has had in your life? Do you think play has a role in innovation? How do you stay curious? These are just quick salvo things I'm thinking about that could be great questions to ask.
I think those are all great
and
questions.
they're unusual questions. You don't necessarily, have you heard or know of anybody that uses those questions in the interview process?
No, usually it's like, tell us about your experience working at company X, or tell us a weakness about yourself. What's your weakness history, right? These are the most awful questions. So I think there's a lot of takeaway here. I really do. I like that. But let's just, one more question here on this talk track. Kevin, do you think that every company needs a catalyst? And if so, how would that catalyst operate in today's remote or hybrid remote working world?
So I think companies probably already have in their midst someone who behaves like a catalyst. They just don't have the official title. I think that there are always some people who are outliers. There are always some people who are a little bit contrarian, but they want to do it in a positive way, those positive deviants, those people who turn their head a little bit in a quizzical way, and I don't get that, or the Tom Hanks, I don't get it, right? And they ask those questions, and they're always challenging, but not in a mean-spirited way, in a way that we could get further. How do we stretch more?
Yeah.
So I think there are a lot of catalysts already in companies. They're just not, as I like to say, they don't get to fly their freak flag every day, right? They don't get to flex that muscle. But I bet you if companies actually started posing that, do you feel like, or is anyone out there believing that they could add more value to the company if we allowed you to have more freedom? And I think that's what a catalyst really was, and how I behaved. I was told many times, your word is freedom, Kevin. And I said, what do you mean? They said, if you're given more freedom, you actually thrive. Most people cannot operate within a corporation that way. They struggle because they want to be led. But those catalysts, those individuals within your organization are the ones you hire for. They're those people who are really, really wonderful at autonomy, but not for selfless reasons, for selfish reasons, right? It's selfless. Right? They want to advance the hopes, the dreams, the aspirations of others. And I go back to, if you shine, I shine, is their attitude, their mindset. So I think if a company is looking to hire or to elevate someone that's already in their midst to be that spark, that creative energy giver, if you will, I think really what's important is start to ask those good questions about how do you see this company improving? How would you add value if you were given freedom? Right? And they'll give you these responses that they've been sitting on for years, maybe.
Right.
Like, oh, if you let me do that, and they lean into it and they're really excited. I think people would be surprised how many people are already walking the hallways, right, or on your Zoom calls, already in your midst, already have an employee number that could behave that way and add value to your company in surprise and delight, unique, unexpected ways.
So for those of you watching, this is an assignment. Go find your catalyst, empower your catalyst, stand back. It's going to make a great impact on your culture. Here's a little creative exercise. I'm just going to spring this one on you. Kevin, I want you to think of an organization in crisis. It could be a company, it could be a team, it could be a nonprofit, I don't care. Just think of an organization that really needs energy and play and passion. Okay? And I want you to pretend you are on their board of directors and you have been empowered to bring a catalyst on. And you found her. She fits the criteria you just described. Okay? You found her. Tell me what her assignment would be and what organization you're thinking of.
So I would go to anything within public sector that has something to do with a city or civic, leadership. So that could be the mayor's office, it could be the commission, the city commissioners, whatever it might be, aldermen, whatever it might be. But someone that would be within that civic team, right? Because I always think that we want to go right to communities. So you've hired someone to be your chief energy officer, CEO, right? Let's say, right? They're going to be a CEO, a chief energy officer, right? And I think the very first assignment is let's actually take the temperature of the different communities around and see how connected they are. Do they feel like they're a part of the community? What's lacking in that ability to build the bridge to them? What do they need? What are unique things they need? Because I think as soon as we can demystify the needs to feel connected and feel like you belong, then you've got a fighting chance. Then you've got an opportunity. And that was one of the biggest things I did at Nike, was this sense of belonging, being a bridge builder. So that would be the first thing that I would tell this new hire is go see what they need and what they feel like they lack and how they don't feel connected. And let's address that first. And then I'd also find a way, let's get everybody to play together. Let's find a grand kind of, what is that thing where you talk about a spectacle, if you will, for the whole city, right?
Yeah.
And you do this play spectacle where everyone is involved, and maybe it's in each of your own little boroughs or areas of the city, but you're all knowing you're all playing at the same time, and you can actually take a cue from the pandemic. What's amazing about the pandemic is the entire world is feeling the same thing right now, collective loss.
Yeah.
Imagine if you could make an entire city feel collective play and connection.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wouldn't that be just magical?
Yeah.
It could be
And what an infusion into a community.
And the talk value, right? The reverberation, right? That connectedness. I see you differently. I'm looking at you differently, right? I don't see you just in a transactional way. I see you in a transformational way.
Right. I love that. That's a great prescription. And yes, for civic organizations, they could certainly use these type of infusions, especially these days. You said earlier that one of the most powerful instruments of play is the ball. Kevin, I mentioned at the top of the show, Rules of the Red Rubber Ball really hit me, and it still is one of the books I recommend to people on the daily. Is this where the ball, in fact, the red rubber ball, ended up being such a muse or such a device for you in your work? Talk to us about that.
So the ball, the red rubber ball, and how I always look at it, it's a metaphor for what you're chasing, what you're pursuing. And for me, it was literally play. So play and a playground in the neighborhood where my grandparents raised us really was the most important place first in my life, because I felt safe there and I belonged. And I was welcomed unconditionally by the boys in the neighborhood. And so a ball has always represented belonging, community, and connection to me. And so the more that I saw the importance of that, I wanted more of that. So I started seeking out other places that I could belong or connect. So the ball was the catalyst, literally, for me to find a way to connect in other places. The public library was another place for me, and school was the third place for me. So I had sports, I had my love of learning, and I had the community at school and the teachers and the encouragers there, and those became the three things. So I always say, what's your red rubber ball? What gets you out of bed in the morning?
Right.
What do you want to chase that it's so inspiring that you want to get out of bed in the morning and leap out of bed and go after that, right? And repeat and repeat and repeat. So it's all about the chase. That's what the ball represents for me, truly, but also what I say to people. What are you chasing? What inspires you? What gets you out of bed in the morning?
And we need to just hold on to that and give ourselves the privilege of pursuing that regardless of our age. That's your whole point, right?
It's ageless, right? There is no age attached to that at all, right? It's more about the spirit that you have, right? And the intention that you're wanting to keep and pursue and go after it. And so you can get sparked by something that inspires you at any moment, and there could be moments throughout your journey that you have different things. And so I think that's the other thing, that it's that curiosity that will continue to feed that chase. And I think that forever curious, staying in that place of wonder, will serve you well.
So your first book really helped individuals figure out that chase and harness a lot of their true passions and curiosities and real superpowers. ESPN put that book out, then McGraw-Hill Education came along, signed you to write The Red Rubber Ball for Work. Talk to us about those insights.
So the red rubber ball at work was really me demystifying that it wasn't something solely that I could own, that there were other people out there behaving like me that had something that inspired them, that got them out of bed in the morning, and they were chasing it. And so the stories of Paulo Coelho, who wrote The Alchemist, among other books, right? He's interviewed in there, to a robotics expert that worked on iRobot film, right? And his expertise was robot swarms. So if you watch that movie, you remember that one scene where they're all like together, like, and they turn the same time and do that. That's his specialty. He worked on the film on that. To graphic designers, Anne Willoughby, who actually studied under Milton Glaser, right? And so she was one of his proteges, and she's a brilliant graphic designer. But each person revealed that one question I asked earlier: what was your favorite game, toy, or activity as a child, and why? And how did that spark you? And did that actually send you on a journey to do what you're doing right now? And so these people literally told their red rubber ball story. Paulo Coelho was marbles. Anne Willoughby was imagination. I mean, it was just these great, the Roblox guy, he would actually find big, giant refrigerator boxes. But when he saw them, he would never say it was a refrigerator box. He would point to it and say, "Mom, there's a fort." Mom, there's a castle. And they would go and basically grab these boxes off the street and put them in the car, and he would go and design things. And so I think that's what we can harken back to. We had these things that sparked joy in us, but also they were innocent moments of inspiration. Things that maybe we just, whatever, I don't think that's that important. But when you harken back and you look, you're like, oh my gosh, look what I'm doing now.
Yeah.
I never put that together. So in that John Nash Beautiful Mind, when you're stringing things together and right CSI, like you go back and go, oh my gosh, right? When you rewind that tape, it all started with that innocent moment of inspiration, that game, toy, or activity.
Yeah.
And so that's the idea behind
that.
the Red Rubber Ball at Work.
So, as you talk through that, Kevin, my mind went to that because I asked myself.
So what was yours?
Well, I grew up on a farm in eastern New Mexico. I was raised by my grandmother. She and I were alone most of the time. So I was thinking about this. What gave me the most joy from most of my childhood was going out in our farm where they just irrigated it. And I would go out into the field with a football and I would pretend I was on the Dallas Cowboys and I would play against myself. So you have to imagine this scene. I throw the ball up in the air and run 5 yards and most of the time catch it. And then I tackle myself. I get up, I dust myself off, say I'm okay, start heading back the other way down the field. Now, the farmer who worked that field was very upset because I was always moving around his irrigation pipes.
Yes.
I remember once my grandmother bought me shoulder pads for Christmas because it made it all feel so much more realistic to me. But what's interesting about this mental exercise and why I'm going on about it, I hope viewers are doing it too, is if you said, okay, Tim, I want you to fast forward half a century. That's what we're literally doing to today. So that was 60. Today's 2020. What do I do today to get the same joy? Well, Kevin, guess what? I turn on Madden football. I pretend I'm coaching the Dallas Cowboys and I simulate it with digital technology.
Come on,
so
dude.
you've really, no, I'm seriously, I do that. And by the way, I'm never going to make fun of kids that believe in Santa Claus because I still believe in the Dallas Cowboys. But anyway, I digress. But the point you're making is really important, and that is, I always see that even these days, like I steal a couple of minutes to do that over the weekend. But what you're telling me is that no, that's food for me. That sparks my imagination. That gives me motivation. That's what you're saying, right? I should continue to chase that.
That's sustenance for your creative soul.
Got it.
You are feeding the beast that you need to feed. And it's so important because, once again, we go back to energy. That's part of your energy menu, right? That's your these are recipes. These are really important things to be ingesting, putting in, right? You're basically, you're putting that information, those experience on your hard drive, your brain.
Yeah.
Right? And so the more of that content that you keep putting in there consistently, you're going to have that available to tap into.
Yeah, well, I'm going to keep doing it. As a matter of fact, even though I'm down about 50 emails today, when we finish here, I think I'm going to go down and we're going to replay that Seattle game from earlier this year.
Oh, yeah.
Kevin,
and I hope there is a better outcome. Maybe there's a defensive stop or something, right?
That one. So you've developed a deep expertise in belonging. You've mentioned it a few times before in the conversation. I want to stop and talk about that now. Talk to us about what belonging means in an organization and why creating belonging, especially in 2020, is not just pivotal to a company's mission and their worthiness, but their actual performance.
So I go back to the necessity of belonging. It's our human innate need, right? We're wired for that. We need that. And when you are an outcast or you're shunned or whatever, that can have, as they say, deleterious effects. Bad things can happen. And so the first thing that you look for when it talks about safety, when you're dealing with a crisis, is, do I belong somewhere? Do I belong somewhere? And so the first thing when you think about the pandemic is people were reaching for where they belong. Is my company reaching out to me? Are they communicating with me? Do I feel like they're, feeding me the right information so that I feel like I'm informed? And are they taking good care of me?
Right.
Is my family doing the same thing? Am I doing that for my family members? Right? Then I look at Micro then macro. What's my community doing? What's going on? All these things.
Right.
But it's all about, we need to feel safe. We need
Yes.
to feel like we're being cared for. And so I go to companies and I say the same thing. You over communicate in crisis as a leader.
Yeah.
It's never enough. And you should
Right.
always be feeling like, I could do more. You're in a perfect space as a leader then. I could do more. Yes, that's brilliant. Do it. And you should feel at the end of the day as a leader, when you're dealing with crisis, exhausted. Because that means you wrung yourself out on behalf of your people.
Right.
And then you replenish and you show up again, right? And they need to know they can count on you. That's what belonging is about. Am I getting the leadership? Am I getting the messages? Are you comforting me and reassuring me and being honest and vulnerable also? Being transparent. And I think that's what belonging really was as a child for me, right? Where people were unconditional with me and they welcomed me, right? And in spite of all the, challenges we were facing as children, with my parents being addicts and my grandparents rescuing us, these individuals, first at the playground, then the public library, then at my school, they just welcomed me unconditionally. There weren't those questions, probing questions that would make me feel uncomfortable. It was always about making me feel feeling comfortable, right? And I think that's so important. And now when you start to think about dealing with this global pandemic, civil unrest, all the uncertainty and upheaval, leaders even more so need to be transparent, available, vulnerable, right? And over communicating. And I think the more that they do that, people will forgive you if you have a misstep or you don't share all that you can or whatever, but that's okay because you're trying and you're doing the best you can.
Right.
And they will appreciate that. But if you hide on them, guess what? They're going to create their own narrative and you can't walk that back. Right? And so
I love that. So
I think it's
the
so
message here
important
is to over communicate.
Yes, absolutely. And that's where people are going to feel like you care. They feel like they're connected. They feel like they're getting to know you beyond your title.
Yeah.
I want to know the person, because sometimes you got to drop your title as a leader and you got to be the person.
That's right.
And you got to let them know, I'm struggling too. This is not easy for me. And there's been a lot of tough decisions that have been made. Furloughing, losing teammates, right? Downsizing, all these things that were really tough decisions for leaders to make. Yeah. Because if they were the right kind of leader, that's family to them.
I think, your message really resonates with me because I think that's the charge this year for leaders is you need to make the effort, because it's the effort you make to be transparent, to be that person, to show them how much empathy you have with the situation, that they will remember. I've always said this, I said it back in 2008, you will be remembered more for how you acted at the bottom than how well you performed at the top. So I think this is great. For those of you viewing, I'm putting up the cover of Kevin's latest book, a kid's book on belonging. It's just an amazing, amazing topic here. I do have one last question for you. One of your most interesting business assignments has to have been when Michael Jordan hired you to relaunch the brand for the Charlotte franchise. Wow. So just give us one piece of advice that you learned from the Hornets launch that you would bring to the table if a company told you, Kevin, we need to relaunch our brand. What did you learn from that experience that you would prescribe?
So it was really interesting. It was a couple years before they were given permission to go and take back the Hornets name. And so it was really interesting. They were looking at their culture as the Bobcats, but also just like how it was going to move forward to the Hornets again and how they were going to reimagine that culture. So it's similar to what we're dealing with right now, right? Everybody wants to say the new normal. That's no. That normal that you know is gone. So the idea is reimagining, your culture, the opportunities. And I think I actually said to him, it's a brave new world.
Yeah.
It's a brave new world. How will you lean into that? And you've got this back to the future opportunity. You're going back, but it's also the future. And so what I loved about him and his executive team and the work that we got to do during that time that led to what they ended up doing, like bringing back the Hornets logo and all that energy, but also putting a new skin on it, was that he was open to listening to this. It wasn't just going back to what it was and let's just, recreate all of that. He knew that it had to have a sensibility for the times that they're in now. Right. And I think that was really important, that he wasn't holding on to the nostalgia, new normal. No, he realized I need to move forward with sensibilities of what do we take from the best that in class back then and actually reimagine it for the current state and moving forward. And I think that's probably one of the best things that we can take away from this moment, right? Is, there were wonderful things that happened pre-pandemic, but let's reimagine that and move forward with all the opportunities and possibilities and wonder and imagination and magic that awaits us. And so that's really what I took from that.
I love that. Relaunch your brand, brave new world, just move forward. I like that. Kevin, as we finish this, in honor of your capdom, which means I love your caps, I brought one and I'm putting it on right now here, buddy. And as you can see here, the cap says, Super Nice Club. There's actually an organization called the Super Nice Club. It's an alignment of people like you that believe that niceness breaks down barriers between people. Kindness runs in short supply. Nice people actually do finish first, especially nice, smart people. So as a nod to you and a nod to your wonderful personality and your mission, I want to thank you on behalf of Voices of Authority for being on the show. I want to tell you this has been the most inspirational hour or so of my week, of my month, of 2020. And I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart.
It's all love. And just so you know, my t-shirt says love. So the t-shirt I'm wearing, it actually says love, right?
Yeah,
so
I see that right
So I did that for you. And I just want you to know that, Love is the Killer app is what brought us together way back in the day. And I just love what you're doing and I love what you represent. And keep going, brother. Keep going. Godspeed, man. I appreciate you.